In Chapter 3, we discuss scheduling and joining the online mediation, and we imagine the virtual mediation space. One of the biggest problems about mediations in general is getting it scheduled. Usually, you have at least 3 people's calendars to consider, and there's a time-consuming game of settling on a date and time for the meeting. With online mediations, the same scheduling problems exist, but to complicate things even further, online mediators sometimes have to deal with the differences in time zones because parties are not always residing in the same state or country as the mediator. Now, the first part of scheduling your online mediation is getting it scheduled on everyone's calendar quickly and easily. Online calendaring tools have cropped up in the past decade, and they allow mediators to schedule appointments, and they let parties visit the mediator's online calendar on their website to view the mediator's availability. Many calendaring tools on the internet are completely free to use, and they're free because they usually allow for one calendar. But some cost money because they access multiple calendars or because they allow the mediator to actually receive bookings and payments right in the calendaring tool itself. Some calendaring tools that exist currently in the market are Calendly, Acuity Scheduling, Appointee, Harmonizely, and Calendar.com. At our office, we use AcuityScheduling.com because Acuity Scheduling is user-friendly and it incorporates some powerful tools like the ability to identify each user's time zones. In our mediation office, we encourage parties to visit our website's calendaring page, and they can choose the available date and time that works best for them. And once they schedule, they await for our office to confirm the mediation appointment and guarantee their attendance. It's that easy. Gone are the days of parties calling our office for available mediation dates. Gone are the days of parties arguing over missed appointments because human error messed up the time zones. Now, once the mediator and the parties calendar a date through the calendaring tool, the parties need to receive their confirmation letter that contains their login details, like their link, their entry code, or their password, so they can begin the mediation at the appointed time. After calendaring your mediation, the next part is to book your online mediation through your e-mediation software. You need to schedule the meeting through your Zoom, WebEx, or Microsoft Teams account and obtain the login details that will go into the confirmation letter the parties will receive. If you're going to use Zoom for the mediation, for example, begin by visiting zoom.us/meeting and selecting Schedule a New Meeting and fill out the necessary case information. Now, if you're a beginner to all this, learn more about scheduling an online mediation through Zoom by watching the YouTube channel's videos listed in this lesson. Be sure to become knowledgeable about utilizing the Zoom waiting room, setting up your Zoom breakout rooms, creating your passwords, and tweaking your video and audio join settings. Lastly, some words about the confirmation letter that you will be sending out to the parties. Once you've calendared the mediation and you've scheduled it on your e-mediation software, you should send out a confirmation notice to discuss how the parties will show and how they will pay. It is better to email the parties from your own email so the parties know the invite is coming from you, since a lot of times parties may not trust the process because of the strife involved in litigation. It's encouraged that you send the parties a confirmation letter on your company letterhead so that you exercise professionalism and you show authority to the parties. This letter should cover all the major issues relevant to the mediation, and the letter should provide the parties with the information that they need to pay and to be present at the mediation. Now, we provide a free sample letter on InstantMediations.com page for your download, so you can see an example of what one such confirmation letter looks like. And regarding payment, send the parties their payment information letter and make sure it includes how they're to pay electronically for their convenience. Various tools exist for electronic payment, such as Zelle, PayPal, Square, Google Pay, Venmo, Apple Pay, LawPay, Cash App, PayPal, etc. It goes on and on. They exist in the market to ensure simple transactions. Parties may either be sent a link requesting funds or directed to visit a page on your website and wish to make payment. At our office, we refer parties to a specific web page where they can make payments online easily. Now let's turn to imagining the mediation space where the mediator and the parties actually meet. After creating your online mediation through Zoom and sending out your confirmation letter, the parties need to know that the mediation virtual space that they're going to occupy is a real place. This diagram provides one way of imagining the mediation space. It's based on Zoom's system, which can apply to any kind of e-mediation tool that you might use, whether it's WebEx or Microsoft Teams. While the physical walls of the office building or conference room may be gone, the virtual mediation is filled with digitally created rooms that participants can move through to participate in their mediation. Because virtual online mediations is a logic-based digital format dependent on predictable processes, it is important to conceptualize rooms as sitting in different phases. From entering the mediation to participating in the main session virtual conference room to moving in and out of breakout caucus rooms, the virtual online mediation world accounts for all the physical spaces you know in the traditional physical mediation space. Let's go clockwise. Now, let's turn to imagining the mediation space where the mediator and the parties actually meet. After creating your online mediation through Zoom and sending out a confirmation letter to the parties that contains their meeting ID and their password, it is crucial that you understand the virtual mediation space that you and the parties will occupy. This diagram provides one way to imagine the mediation space. It is based on Zoom's system, but it can be applied to any mediation tool the mediator might want to use. While the physical walls of an office building or conference room may be gone, the virtual mediation is filled with digitally created rooms that participants can move through to participate in their mediation. Because virtual online mediations is a logic-based digital format and is dependent on predictable processes, it is important to conceptualize rooms as sitting in different phases. From when you enter the mediation to participating in the main session's virtual conference room to moving in and out of breakout caucus rooms, the virtual online mediation world accounts for all the physical spaces that you know in the traditional physical mediation space. We will go clockwise, starting from the bottom left. The virtual mediation space consists of 3 rooms. The first is what we call the pre-waiting room. Then there's the waiting room. And lastly, there's the mediation room, also called the main session. The pre-mediation waiting room is the phase where the parties input their identification information and possibly reach a screen informing them of the mediation start time and date. The waiting room, that phase is where the parties wait for the mediator to admit them into the main session. The main session is the room in which the mediation actually happens, unless the mediator chooses to move some or all the parties into breakout rooms. The mediator should create at least 3 different breakout caucus rooms, one for each party and their attorney, and one just for the attorney so they can congregate if it becomes necessary. Beginner mediators, especially those using Zoom, those who need help in helping their parties join the mediation, from downloading Zoom to entering the waiting room to beginning the mediation room session, they should read this lesson in detail so they're better prepared on how to help the parties get started. Next, in chapter 4, we'll discuss starting and running the actual mediation session.